This week on the I Love Funny Women podcast.
So actually, being 23 is not the norm. Are women funny? Can they be? Oh my God, I don't know. We tear women down as a society. What am I supposed to do? When I turn 40, I was just supposed to explode into a cloud and go away.
Welcome to the I Love Funny Women podcast with your host, Dina Nina.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the I Love Funny Women podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Dina Nina.
And I'm Lalita D.
And we're here for this podcast. Hey Lalita.
Hey Dina, it's always good to see you.
Likewise. I hate that we're so far apart, but I'm glad you're in the US again.
I know, right? At least I'm more or less in the same time zone. Jet lag really hit me bad this week. I had jet lag, and then I also had kind of this weird menopausal things going on. It's like I create all this heat, and I'm like, oh my God, I have COVID.
I mean, I understand it. I understand hot flashes, but I also, same with me in the way that my cycle hit me really hard this month because I'm back on estrogen, so I'm not having the hot flashes anymore. But apparently every month before my second shot of the month, I get really weepy and moody again. And I forgot that happened.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm super hot and not in a good way. And then, weepy and moody. It's terrible.
Right. And I'm just taking naps on the floor of my office, crying myself to sleep in my office.
I had a nap in the back of my car. I've never even had sex in the back of my car because in Europe, we don't have cars when we're teenagers. It's not a thing. And also our parents don't mind if we just have sex, upstairs in the bedroom like normal people.
That's so amazing.
But I'm finally realizing the beauty of the back of the car is a place to have a nap in the Target parking lot. Oh my God, so good. Yay for blackout windows.
Yay for blackout windows. So like always, we would love to hear from you. Any of you, please, someone, just post a video on Instagram and tag at I Love Funny Women with the hashtag Hey Dina. And we'd love to put you on the podcast or maybe even on our YouTube.
I'd love to have a guest, like an uninvited guest. Well, not an uninvited guest, but
I'd love to have somebody just pop up in my feed.
It's fun to have an audience member rather than an actual comedian come onto the podcast. So you could make that happen. Just tag us or, whatever you need to do. We'll have you on. Now, if you're loving this podcast or even if you're just kind of okay, whatever about it, still, please share it with your friends.
And sharing, we love.
It's caring and other things that rhyme with sharing. Daring. Sharing is daring. Be courageous. Share this podcast.
Hashtag be courageous.
Be
Hashtag
brave.
live on the edge. Make your dreams come true. By sharing the I Love Funny Women podcast.
Hey, this is Door Girl Greg. Thank you for listening to the I Love Funny Women podcast. If you haven't by now, you should really go to the socials and check out at I Love Funny Women on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube, because really, what else are you going to do?
So this week in the news, United Airlines announced that they will require all 67,000 US-based employees to receive the COVID-19 vaccine because of the Delta variant. The company said that they realize some of their employees will disagree with their decision, but that ultimately it's the right thing to do. The big question now is if Delta is going to require its employees to be vaccinated against United.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun.
What I find shocking about that news item, Dina, is that United Airlines has 67,000 employees. Where are they when you need something at the airport?
They're on the ground checking to see who has the good porn in their bags.
There you go. That makes a lot of sense. Now, for me, the big news of this week is that the L Word Generation Q Season 2 dropped. Yes.
Ooh.
Dina, are you a Shane or an Alice?
I want to be a Shane, but I think I'm more of a Tina.
Oh yeah, I know. I feel like a little like Bets with Tina in Moon and Shane ascending. Which is the most L word thing I've ever said. But the one thing I do have over many of the actual cast members of the L word is that I am actually lesbian.
Fair.
Welcome to my L world, baby.
I want to be an L word. But
I want
just,
you to be an L word. I mean, it's just like, anyway.
Lamenting over my sexual orientation every day.
Yeah, because that's how inclusive we are.
We are.
I Love Funny Women podcast.
Governor Desantis has proven this week that he doesn't care about his constituency at all by banning mask mandates for all Floridians, except for the KKK.
Oh.
Hey, when it's true, it's true.
When it's true, it's true. Nice one, Dina.
I'm like, all those decades that Southerners didn't mind masks. Now it's coming to bite them in the ass.
Now, speaking of assholes, although at a slightly different level, Andrew Cuomo has now officially been outed as an asshole. Dina, did you know he was married to JFK's niece?
I did not.
Right? I was a little surprised to find out. Like, these people are all from big political families, and they're also Catholics, and nothing against Catholics, but it does kind of explain the non-consensual touching.
Coincidentally, Brittney Spears came out as Catholic, showing off her new mask dress on Instagram, but then she deleted the photo.
Oh.
But she did not delete the photos where her hands were cupping her naked breasts and sunbursts covered her nips. So, yeah.
Committed Catholic.
Committed Catholic.
And speaking of blonde, famous people, Amy Schumer has a new cooking show. I love Amy Schumer. She's just a ray of sunshine. Like, now I find out that she can't cook. I already knew that she's not funny. Like, she always manages to make me feel better about myself.
I feel like you were faking it halfway through.
I never fake it, Dina.
And that's all the time we have for the news, quote unquote.
Hey, all you funny women. It's Door Girl Greg, and I'm here to say thank you for listening to the I Love Funny Women podcast. Dina, I don't have glitter in my asshole. Only in my pockets.
This week, our interview is with a Lady Laughs Comedy Festival alum. She is a comedian, a performance artist, and a video artist and painter.
She's been on NPR and was a featured solo performer at the Amsterdam Fringe Festival in 2014.
And please welcome to the show our guest, Christine Ferrera. Hello, Christine. How are you today?
I'm good. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. I am so excited to have you on the show. First of all, what are you up to at the current state of how we live in the world?
Well, it's a weird time. So just in general, right now, I am living in Chicago. I moved here about 6 months before the pandemic. I kind of was floundering a lot during the pandemic, obviously. And then maybe about a little less than a year ago, I started working with the Lincoln Lodge, which is an independent comedy venue in Chicago. And it's a place that I also had performed and really loved performing there. And so I've been working with them. I created a podcast network and studio. So that was kind of my main like quarantine thing that I did. I mean, I did other stuff. I made some like videos. I did a lot of writing and that kind of thing. But I don't know. For me, it really was just like, yeah, I really went through the full, I'm sure a lot of people did, but the full like depression and who am I? What am I doing? You know, like reconsidering everything, including stand-up or performing in general. I'm also like, I've been an artist my whole life. So I work in a lot of different mediums. So some of the upsides for me were that I started like painting again. I started making video work again. And sort of working on various like writing and audio projects. I'm working on an audio series. So, different things, but then, like I said, I started working with the Lincoln Lodge. So the last, I would say 6 to 8 months has just been podcasting. Like I've been helping people create shows, record their shows, publish their shows. And it's great. I mean, they're mostly comedy shows. So it was a nice way to connect with people remotely during the pandemic, and also like work on something creative, but kind of low pressure, if that makes
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
We were talking on Monday, kind of like you and I are aging very gracefully and very well, by the way. We were talking about the diversity in the comedy community and entertainment arts community, and you brought up the whole age diversity, and I found that so refreshing and interesting. But like, I have people that are in their 60s and 70s, and then I have people that are like 18, 20, 21,
I don't know if I can say the same. Like, I'm trying to think about comedy specifically. I don't feel like I kind of feel like I'm the oldest person I know in comedy, but God, is that really true? I mean, there's the occasional, like occasionally I work with like more prominent comics, and some of them I guess are either my age or older, but I don't know. I can't. God, I wish I had a more age diverse circle. I have a diverse circle, but age diverse, I know like a just handful of people that are my age, and I don't think I even know anyone older. Although when I was in Madison, I met one or two comics that are older, and I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like, I don't know. I find it fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, I think starting it is especially in a bigger city, like it's a young person's game, because you are out all the time really late, give open mic showcase, open mic. Like, I think the thing that made my group diverse is, one, teaching people. So I have a bunch of older people that want to learn stand up, and whether they're pursuing it actively or not is kind of one of the, like, they're still part of the comedy community, I feel. So I kind of accepted that. And then having a festival where anyone could submit and having them come has been really cool, because I feel like we still get a good chunk of people that are over 50, which is fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
Anyway, so what are ways that you think that as an industry we can encourage people that are a little bit older to be involved?
If you think about the last 10 or 20 years, there was kind of a thing of like women had to really say, put women on lineups. And
yes.
It's a pretty easy thing to just be able to, I mean, in general, to say, like, here's the lineup and this is how it breaks down by like gender, or by, I mean, I guess you could break it down other ways, like by, race or ethnicity or things like that. But with age, it's kind of like harder, because I mean, unless you got in the habit of being like, hi, I'm so-and-so, my pronouns are this, and my age is this. Like,
and I'm a senior citizen.
Yeah.
And I get a discount at Denny's. Does anyone want to hang out? Like,
that's how change always happens. You know what I mean? Like the minority that is being like either marginalized or oppressed or ignored in this case has to kind of put up a big fight about it and make a big deal of it. It usually comes from that group. And that's the thing, is like, is there even a group in comedy of like people of a certain age that want to be like the squeaky wheel gets the oil? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty loud about it, like I'm pretty upfront about my age and upfront about the lack of age diversity.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's also that burden that, like, again, like people, people of color and gender diversity have had to carry So it's like yet another burden that you have to carry of being like always the one who sort of feels like you're complaining, even though it's not a complaint. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so I don't know. It's a tricky one. You know, like I was just looking at the Just for Laughs new faces, and I was like thinking, okay, they're not saying young faces.
Right.
But it does kind of feel like, you know, I mean, have you seen a new face at Just for Laughs that's like 60? Like, I haven't really seen that. I remember a few years
The
ago.
new faces are like literally new. They have collagen, elasticity. They are taught.
Right. Like they're literally 21 years old. I don't know. I mean, but it's kind of, then it gets into, is it a bigger society issue? Because another thing that dawned on me during just the last year or so is not just the, like I started thinking of it like I do with gender, because I was like, I always have this sense, and perhaps I'm overstating it, but I don't think so. Like I literally for my whole adult life, I've actually thought in the back of my head, people hate women. Like they just do. They just don't like them. They just don't like them. Like nobody actually thinks I don't like women.
Right.
But generally as a society, we don't like women. Like it sounds crazy when you say that. And I have jokes and things where I'll just be like, everybody, we all hate women. And I include myself in it because I'm talking about society. I mean, it's one of those things. Can you prove it? No. But if you walk through the world as a female presenting person, you fucking know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just this thing of like, and so 5 or 10 years ago when it was like, are women funny? Can they be? Oh my God, I don't know. And there was like such a debate of, it's like, it seems insane now that there'd be but the thing is I was like, it's not so much are women funny, because like there's so many funny women, obviously. And so like when people were making those debates, they'd be like, well, what about Sarah Silverman and Whitney Cummings? And, then just name like 50 million funny women. But I'm like, it's not that though. It's that we just kind of don't like it when women are good at stuff, when women are funny, when they're talented, when they're smart, when they're interesting. We just like, we tear women down as a society. And of course, like with millennials and even Gen Z, of course, it's getting so much more progressive and woke. And like, I really feel like every generation makes a big push forward with that kind of stuff. It's a push forward, but it's not like, I don't know, like I'm Gen X and, it's a lot different than when I was in my 20s, but it's not like it's fixed. Like, is racism ever fixed? Like, I don't think so. It's just an ongoing, perhaps forever battle. I mean, I hope one day we see a world like I always think of that Wachowski's TV show, Sense8.
Sense8. Oh.
Yeah, I know. I loved that. I loved the first season, but I was just like, oh my God, this is it's like a dystopian future, except for it's utopian. Because it's like these empathic people who are basically like the next level of human. Like they're so human that they actually feel empathy for everyone. And they're like, and so I don't know, that show to me was like kind of a really brilliant vision of what is possible. And including like, there was tons of age diversity. There was just like tons of diversity. I mean, that was kind of like the whole theme of that show, is just that like the universality of being human. So I'm totally like talking in circles, but back to my point, which is like your question of, what do we need to do to change it? I mean, I think it just needs to be on the table as an issue to be addressed, first of all. And it needs to be like, I think just like with gender or race or any type of diversity, it just needs, I mean, like, I feel like there's more conversation around neurodiversity than there is age diversity, which is crazy.
Great.
It's really the last thing that people feel like, well, no, that's just bad. I mean, like aging is just bad. It's not like neurodiversity, people talk about like, these different types of neurochemistries are just different. One is not superior. Like that's the whole thing. It's like, one gender is not superior. Like heteronormativity, it's not the norm, actually, you know? So actually being 23 is not the norm, you know?
And if you
is not bad or embarrassing or just kind of, you know what I mean? Like age already comes with it. It's already built in that there's like, it has its own difficulties. So I think just taking that stigma away, just like we're trying to take away every other stigma. And it's only a good thing, because how many funny comics are there that are differently abled, that are neuroatypical, that are of varying genders? I mean, that's where it gets so interesting, because it's new points of view, different points of view, cutting edge points of view, you know?
Like I loved that journey because it's so true. And if we're lucky, we all make it to an age that will be deemed old.
Right.
And I say if we're lucky, sometimes I don't even know if that's the truth. But like there are a lot of us that are a little bit older that are still willing to travel and be on the road, even if we get tired. Or
it kind of all balances out anyway, because it's like, I'm not a spring chicken. And like, no, I'm actually getting ready to do a month tour by myself, which sounds insane right now. And who knows, maybe I'll be halfway through and be like, oh my God, Dina, can you come pick me up?
I'm on the way.
But the thing is that so you lose stuff, but you also gain stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm way smarter, and I'm for sure a better comedian than I was 5 or 7 years ago, whatever. But that's the other thing that I was going to say is like this thing of like when you get old and you get tired or whatever, part of it for me is also like the stereotypes about age. So like I actually hear a lot of young comics make jokes in which the butt of the joke is just that somebody is like 40 or over 40 or old or some old guy or whatever. Not a lot, but I do hear it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always like, oh, that's fine. They probably have no idea. Like I'm about to go up after them and they have no idea that I'm 51 and they're making fun of somebody for being like 40. And they're doing this like old, get off my lawn, or you're like, or, you know, just somebody who's incredibly like politically incorrect, or, you know, like, I mean, certainly boomers, that whole thing about boomers. Like I've been an artist since I was a teenager. I've been making art, you know, like I plan to make art my whole life. When I was a kid, I would read books about artists, and I would read about like, oh, Matisse, when he was in his 80s, he started doing this or whatever. And these men are just giants and they're celebrated or whatever. So when I was a kid, I would be like painting, and I would just always think, I'm going to paint my whole life. I'm going to make art my whole life, because that's what you do when you're an artist. Mm-hmm. Now that I'm 51, and like, so a lot of things happen. Like for one thing, almost everybody that I knew in my 20s, like I had a million friends and they were all artists. I would say 90% of them are not making art and are basically, you know, they're either raising families or they're working a job or they're just doing whatever, you know, but they're, for one reason or another, it's really hard to sustain that over time. And with comedy, maybe even harder, because like you said, it's like, it's exhausting for one. I mean, there's like, you know, it's a performance, it's travel, it's a lot of things. So a lot of people drop out of doing it just for very practical reasons. But that's the thing. So like whenever I hear some young person making fun of old people, I'm like, so I'm a 51-year-old who's making art every day. Like I'm a pretty diehard, prolific artist. Are you saying that I shouldn't be doing that? Like, what am I supposed to do? When I turn 40, I was just supposed to explode into a cloud and like go away. Like, so what do we do with people? So if we don't want people to just sustain capitalism and the patriarchy, which is what I don't want to do. I mean, I make art because I find capitalism like completely painful, and it's like a desiccated way to live. You know what I mean? It's like there's no soul in it whatsoever. Like, I'm not living to make money. I don't have kids. I chose not to. I never wanted them. And so what I want is to live the life of the artist and create my whole life. But I feel like there's this huge pressure in society that's very much an age thing, which is like, well, if you haven't made it by the time you're 30, what are you doing? Like, and certainly by the age of 40. And so now I'm 50. So it really, when I turned 50, it really hit me like a ton of bricks, because I was like, I have so few examples, not only of people in their 50s who make art or do comedy, but women in their 50s who make art and do comedy and are thriving, like, and are not necessarily famous. Like, there's the few famous, like, you know, Maria Bamford is about my age. She might be like 1 year younger, but Maria Bamford is around my age. Someone like Jackie Cashian, who is like a genius.
Genius.
Yeah. But like most of them are like very famous and have like pretty serious careers. So if you're not that, capitalism basically says, go away, shut up, sit down, stop making art, you know. But I don't want to, because the only alternative is to get a horrible job that I hate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. So it's like, yeah, I don't really, by society standards, I don't have this like groundbreaking career. I'm not rich. I'm certainly not famous, but I love what I do. I am making the best work of my life. And so I don't want to stop. And so I'm trying to get into this mindset of just being my own role model, if that makes sense. And then people like you know, I do know like tons of great people who are doing amazing stuff that I love. And it means a lot to me. Like, it's funny because when we were talking the other day, you were telling me about some of the rough spots that you've been going through, particularly in the last year, which has just been brutal. But it's like, I just want people like you to know that I think about your work. Like, I'm aware of it. It's stuff that inspires me. It's like, it is really important. And so I'm trying to break the mold, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know,
I think me too. Like, I do this, one, because I love it. Two, because I love, well, I mean, it's all around love. Like, I love empowering, you know, giving people the tools to empower themselves. I love being a part of creating and changing a community's mindset around how women and queer women show up in the arts in society. But it is hard, and capitalism, I want the millennials and everybody that came after to know that there are a lot of us who recognize that capitalism is soul crushing and hard and difficult.
well, every generation kind of thinks that they discovered all of this. And I'm not dissing. I actually really love millennials and Gen Z. Like,
I do too. I date them.
those are some of my best audiences. Like, weirdly, I feel incredibly simpatico, particularly with Gen Z. I don't know why, but the thing is like Gen Xers were screaming about this. We were, because baby boomers, you know, that whole thing. I mean, they were screaming about other stuff, though. I do respect boomers because they were the civil rights leaders. You know, they were like, they were like really radical politically. The only problem is that the baby boomer generation, at the time, it probably seemed normal to them, but it was like a total anomaly. Like, the wealth that they came into and the opportunities and all of that was because of the post-war period. So it really was like a complete anomaly. Like, in the history of, I know a little bit about economics, and in the history of economics, there's like a couple of like huge peaks, and that was one of them. So it was like the Great Depression was like a big low, and the boomer generation was this crazy anomaly where it was like a bubble. It was unrealistically, the economy was booming. And so basically everybody's been paying for it since, starting with Gen X. Yeah. And like, I don't know about you, but when I was younger, I mean, that's all, everybody I knew was making art that was about like, fuck capitalism completely. Yeah. And now like millennials and Gen Z are kind of like, everybody who came before us like ruined it and da da da. It's like, no. We also were screaming about this and like protesting it and like,
And the punk and post-punk scenes, like that was all about not fitting into society and creating something that's greater than capitalism, and the grit and the guts we needed to push through all of that from the late 80s through the 90s, you know?
Yeah, and the thing is, it's just that Gen X has got such a small voice. There's like fewer of us, and also, you know, like people age out. So it's like there's less people from our generation that are still kind of like in the public discourse in that way, talking about it. It drives me crazy because I feel like there's so little representation. And so it's like millennials are just they're such a large group and they're so vocal. And I mean, granted, like, yeah, it's kind of their heyday, you know, or whatever. But it's like, good God, sometimes they drive me a little crazy with like just knowing everything. Like, it's like nobody likes a know-it-all. And also like literally every generation thinks that they discovered gender fluidity and like the patriarchy sucking and like, you know,
right, yeah,
like it's like, I don't know, it's kind of funny sometimes, but it's just sort of like, oh really, like wow, you're a genius, you figured that out. Like I don't know, but anyway,
you read a Wikipedia article about it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being who you are in this world and for continuing to do it. And thank you also for being on the I Love Funny Women podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me. And I really want to just say again, thank you for everything that you do, because it's made a huge difference in my life.
Oh,
yeah.
As I start bawling.
I know.
Thank you so much, Christine Ferrera.
Bye.
Oh, I'm so sad that the show has already ended.
I know, right? It just went too quick this week. Went too quick.
It did. And thanks for listening to the I Love Funny Women podcast.
You can find us on all the social media at I Love Funny Women, and we are on YouTube as well.
And this podcast was written by me.
And me.
And you can find me on all the socials at Dina Nina XO.
And I am on Instagram and Twitter at Lalita D Comedy.
Find Christine Ferrera on Instagram at Chrissy.Ferrera.
And our door girl Greg is on Instagram at GG Potter.
Finally, my heart, my love, Crysta Garner, who is our announcer, can be found on Instagram at Crysta Garner.
This is an Artemis Glow studio production
in association with Crossover Media and AMG.
Have a great week, everyone.
Have a great week.